Get ready to move, get ready to groove. We're bringing the funk, gonna make you move. Life back system, it's time for change.
We're back, and I am here to go over the information in regards to bone density, your hips, your spine, your neck. Does Carnivore help you? All right, first, I want to cover my little jacket because I've had several people ask me, where did you get the jacket and what does M stand for? So M stands for mom. And the reason why I got this particular jacket from B.E. Humble, which is Brittany Humble. I love her to death. She's like one of my favorite people on the internet. And if I was to get on and scroll, I would definitely follow Brittany's stuff. She's just so energetic. She's a Christian woman. She loves devotional. She's just really a fantastic human being. So with that being said, hi Brittany, if you ever see this. So this coach, she decided that, when your kids are in sports, they get these jackets, they're going to high school and college, and she just really felt like mom needed something, right? So I loved it. And hers have like pins for the sports her son's playing, like basketball or football. Like he likes two sports. He actually loves football more than basketball. And then her daughter's got her pins, and you can get names put on it, like literally whatever you want. But I just went with Mom University, and then I got Coach Lisa on here. And really my first job, first and foremost for the rest of my life, is mom. Even though your children hit 18, 21, 25, 45, 50 years old, to be honest with you, for as long as I'm breathing, my first priority will always be my husband, and then my children, obviously God before that. But with that being said, how do you get to be a good mom? Right? We don't have any instruction manual. Our kids didn't come with instructions. And even if they did, if you have 5, 10, 15, 12 kids, they're all different. There's nobody who's the same. They could have the same DNA, but their personalities are different. Maybe some have autism, they have Asperger's, they have autoimmune disease, their love language. We did a whole course on love language. It is completely different per child. However, your job is stability. Your job is to be healthy. And I was thinking about that this morning because I was like, man, I have my life back. Like, I know that's the name of the program, which obviously means the world to me that it's named Life Back, and it definitely fits what my program offers. And this entire course is mind, body, spirit. But if you don't even know what your spirit is, and you don't know where your mind is because you've been sick and ill and chronic pain, chronic disease, these are things that like really cause a mom and a dad, but primarily a mom, to suffer, because dad has a break. People go, oh, well, going to work isn't a break, but it is a break. It's a break from the monotony of every single day doing the same thing with your kids. For myself, I worked and did kids pretty much my entire married life. I have worked, and I'm 100% good for that. Why? Because I love working, but I also like making sure that my kids' needs are met, not just financially, but emotionally, and knowing their love languages, knowing how to communicate with them. And most importantly, I just really feel like we have a calling in this world to be the first voice in our children's head. And if our voice isn't clear and our voice isn't healed, quite frequently, neither are theirs, because you've just repeated potentially what your parents taught you. And maybe when you were 20 years old, that seemed right. But then as you age, things change. And I can tell you, from having a child at 20 versus having a child at almost 50, there's a huge difference in my perception, my belief system, what I know, my wisdom. What's the value of that? The value is no dollar. There's no dollar on this planet that could help me understand that at 20 years old. But if we listen to other women that are older and we gain that wisdom and we really seek to see what works, I always say the past or success leaves clues if you're willing to listen to them. I personally call them golden nuggets, which brings me to what we're going to talk about today, because I constantly get questions from my clients and or from the public that are like, hey coach, what do you think about this? Or or that or whatever it is. And sometimes it's about God, sometimes it's a belief system, sometimes it's about marriage, and a lot of times it's about mental health. That's a huge one in this course. Getting our mindset and our mind straight is critical to overcoming addiction, not only to food but to everything in this world. Like, we are so addicted to traveling, we could be addicted to shopping, we could be addicted to horses or going and coming. And I have some children that suffer from FOMO, fear of missing out. But at the end of the day, if you have a clear mind, a clear conscience, you are striving to better yourself every day. Because, I'm not saying that good people get into heaven, because that's not always the truth. And we don't want to be a wolf in sheep clothing. We really want to be transparent. We want to have raw and real. And I think that it's really important not to blow up something just because you're on a bandwagon. And people who have this addictive personality quite frequently do that. They're like, oh, I got this new diet and it works. I got this new program, it works. I got this new coach and she works, it works. And then even like the other day, I had a extensive conversation with somebody that I've had twice before. And she was like, yeah, my sons have a trainer and they're eating, high protein and low fat and carbohydrates, and they're losing weight and they're gaining muscle. I'm like, how old are your boys? Oh, they're, 26 years old. Well, let me tell you something. There's a huge difference between a 26-year-old high testosterone functioning young man and a woman who's past menopause, and you're in postmenopausal, or, like once you're postmenopausal, you're there forever. But your estrogen's dropping, your testosterone's dropping, you've damaged your body, you've had children. I literally had to set her straight, because there was nothing in that conversation that was making sense. And I told her, I said, why don't you give it a try? Why don't you do the high protein, the low carb, the fruits and the vegetables, balance out your macros and your micros, and see if it helps you. And then if you end up not getting to where you want to go, by all means, reach back out to me and I'll gladly help you then. But my goal isn't to change your belief system. My intention is to help you understand why. So we have the why of, we do it for ourselves. The why is the capital Y, and Y ... OU. So you matter. Then when we look at after that, it's like, what's next, right? So how do we transform our belief system? Well, if I show you all the documentation of what all of these plants and vegetables are doing to us, and the manufacturing of these ultra processed foods, let's not forget chemicals and products and all this other stuff going into our system, is to focus on your liver. Most of you already know my entire program and my entire existence right now is helping others overcome liver cirrhosis, liver fibrosis, and just overall malfunctioning liver. Even if it's just at a slow pace, eventually it's going to kick up with you. The good news is that Carnivore helps that 100%. I mean, I just did another study yesterday that shows even for cirrhosis, like end stage, you can heal that liver. It's not going to be perfect like it was maybe when you were born, or maybe even at 12, but years of damage can be reversed to the point that you can buy some time, right? So you'll be what I call on borrowed time, but you are going to get there. And when we're living on borrowed time, to be honest with you, anything past like maybe 50, 55 years old, if you're a man, you have maybe 20 years left. And if you're a woman, you might have 30, 32 years left. You are on the downside of your body, and eventually we're all going to pass away. But why not live each and every day to the fullest in the mind, body, spirit? So you need to be in line in your mental thoughts and your body, okay? So this goes into what I want to talk about today is Carnivore. And I'm not going to go into the full benefits of Carnivore, but I hear all the time, they're like, what about your skin? So what? Do you think I really care? I'm 65 years old. If I have some skin, I have a happy life. I am healthy. If I can outrun you, if I can out pump iron on you, if I can outdo push-ups on you, do you really think I care? I am healthy on the inside. People who look healthy sometimes aren't healthy. They're using toxic products. They have, toxic chemicals for cleaning fluids in their house. They have toxins in their hair. Yes, I do put chemicals on my hair, but I use the most natural one that I can find. And most of them don't have chemicals. If you get the EWG app, it's going to show you what's going on in there. I actually switched off a lot of products because they have no label and I'm not able to truly see what I'm purchasing. So I'm like, no, I'm just not going to do it anymore, right? It's me who's taking control of my own health. And that's what I'm advocating to you, is be a self-advocate. So the next question that came up that I really felt was important, because I literally went through this after 2 years on the carnivore. I did that before, took a test, have not, I don't even like that word cheated or treated, because you're either are or you aren't. It's kind of like being pregnant. You either are pregnant or you aren't pregnant. And in this case, I am a carnivore. So I don't dip into chocolate. I don't touch fruit. I don't walk by a buffet going, oh man, I want that. I might say, oh, that smells good or that looks good. But then my brain, I have trained my brain 100% to where now it looks at that and it sees nothing but death and pain. Chronic pain will drive you insane, literally insane. How much freedom, how much more could I be thankful for that God freed me of my own body? I'm no longer a prisoner inside of here. So now that I'm coming through this healing after a couple, 3 years on carnivore, where am I? I'm getting ready to go into the 4th year. Where am I in my bone density? So this is a question that's asked on a regular basis. And to be honest with you, I don't give it a whole lot of acknowledgement, but I want to change that today, because women are 82% more susceptible to getting osteoporosis or osteoporina or just literally fractures falling than men are. Why? So common sense, connecting dots, which is actually what I do best. I'm not a doctor. I don't have an MD or a PhD behind my name or in front of my name. However, I will tell you, common sense makes a lot of logic to me, is probably the best word I could use. So if you think about men from their testosterone when they go through puberty all the way forward, and they can still have a really super healthy life if they've taken care of themselves, less alcohol, less smoking, less drugs, at 85, 90, 100 years old, where women tend to become frail, break down, and they kind of fall apart. What is the difference? And the number one difference is testosterone. So women have been for years caught up in dieting, having an 18-inch waist, not having muscles. And I started digging deeper into bone density, and it literally comes from the more muscle mass you have, you will start to create bone density. So I have a few clients that have gotten tested lately, and they came up that they are at risk and or are diagnosed with osteoporosis. Or there's also osteoarthritis, which is another bone issue. So when we look at being a carnivore and bone density, we have to remember there's animal products. Now, right away, everybody goes, oh yeah, that's why, we want the milk, we want the cheese, the cottage cheese. But is that it? And I didn't feel like it was, to be honest with you, because if I went back, we didn't have those options in the wilderness. And this is where my brain is trained now. That's where it functions from. Always has, to be honest with you. I've always, even as a 5-year-old, been a hunter. And it's something that's part of my passion. I used to say it was because of my heritage, but really I look at the generations that handed that down to me. And my grandfather was a hunter, and I got to go hunting with him. And literally it's in my passion is to be a hunter. Yet I was brought up not eating meat, and that it was gross and there was things wrong with it. And you're going to have parasites, and don't eat it raw because you're going to get worms or maybe bacteria or something like botulism, salmonella, it's going to kill you. Don't do it. So over the years, I fell away from that, and my bone density became so brittle that I was at very high risk of potentially my balance was off, my equilibrium was off, I had vertigo. I did fall numerous times on ice and off ice. I fell just 4 years ago here on this property, trying to get to my husband, who was, I thought, having a stroke, but it turned out he had liver cirrhosis. Very devastating when you get to the point that you think, wow, I thought I took care of myself. How did I get so sick? And it's just a wake up call. It's like someone, I feel like God just slapped my face and he said, it's time. It's time for your voice to get out there and speak to other women about the truth. And then when I started digging into the bone density, and the animal products. And there's still people who want to go high protein, low fat, high protein, low fat. Okay, if you're going to be a bodybuilder and you want to go on stage and you're going to cut down and you want to cycle, that's fine. But remember, the fat is where it's at. So we want these nutrients coming into our body. But there is a key principle behind protein. How much protein is based off of an individual and exactly what you're doing with that protein. So what does that mean, Coach Lisa? Well, high protein increases your muscle strength. So if you're going to the gym and you're using enough weight resistance to be able to justify your protein intake, by all means, you would want to keep that protein a little bit higher. How high, right? It doesn't need to be 200 grams. I mean, maybe if you're really going into powerlifting and you've got this excess that you need the energy you need from that, sure, you could do that. I'm not going to be pro it, but I would definitely coach you to get there. But I would also say that your energy source is literally from the animal fat. So moving forward, so why do I need protein? Why can't I just eat a fat-based diet? And I'm going to tell you why, because you must increase your muscle strength to increase and support your bone health. Because if you don't have the protein in there, at least, 20-30%, then what's going to happen is you're going to be carnivore. Your bone density is going to start to decrease. It doesn't shrink, it decreases, and you're going to become very frail. You're going to have a very frail bone structure, because this is what helps you grow older, is having a very firm bone structure. I talk about all the time, the hunch on the back. We don't want to fall over. Tech neck. We don't want to be here from being on our computer and our laptop and our phones all day long. Fractures. If you stumble and trip because of your functional fitness isn't there, you are ultimately going to break something. Maybe it's going to be a knee or an ankle, and worse, if it's a hip and you're laid up and you get pneumonia. Most of us know those 82% of women end up dying from a hip fracture. Very difficult for my brain to comprehend that. So again, I wanted to get to the root of that problem. So when we have our liver and it's metabolizing our proteins, we want to be able to also utilize them in our daily life in order to have functional movement. And this is what's going to give us longevity. So does carnivore support bone health? And it does. It actually helps your bone grow stronger, because as you eat like an animal, right? Now you are going to move like an animal. You're going to have energy like an animal, and you're going to build muscle mass like an animal. Have you ever seen like a fat horse versus a muscular horse? The fat horse has all kinds of problems. He's got gut health. He has even diabetes or navicular however you say it. And it's got hoof problems. It has colic problems. It's got bowel problems. All of these things come because it's not working. But when it's working, it's so healthy, because we are not really, this world wasn't created for us to bring animals in and turn them into domestic. Instead, they were to run free. And we have done basically the same thing to ourselves. We put ourselves behind a desk. We put ourselves in a car, whatever it is that you're doing, that you're sitting, even if you're an airline stewardess, you're back and forth, but then you sit, right? And you wait for the next flight and you sit. We've got to get out of this sitting mode and get our body in motion. And I've been saying this for 45 years, a body in motion is a healthy body. So, okay, we go forward. We start to use those weights, do the muscle resistance, do the interval training, and now we start to build the muscle density, the bone density inside of our structure, which then the muscle around it starts fighting against fractures. You're not going to get diseases. You're going to fight against it. And basically, overall, you're going to lead towards health. And that's what we want. To be 100 years old, we must have some muscle mass. I mean, it's just the only way it's going to be. And then this prevents more disease. It conditions our body to be healthy. We're able to get up and down stairs. We have stability. That is like so critical. And then we will not have brittle bones, to where when we accidentally stumble and we fall down, We're not breaking any bones, like even your wrist or your elbows or your shoulders. I've watched older people fall. I even watched my grandmother one time, which by the grace of God, she just bounced right back up, but she was very, very healthy and predominantly ate seasonal fruits, but she ate meat, right? So she was jumping rope and she fell and she came down on her shoulder, smacked her head against the ground, came back up, literally got up, and everybody in the room was like, it was like watching fireworks. Everybody was like, and it was like, are you all right? And she got up and she just kind of shook off and went on. And if I was to figure out that time frame, I think if she was alive today, she would be 111. And at that time, that was in the year 2000. No, I'm sorry, 19. My last one was born and 4 months old, so it'd be 1987. So do the math. Anybody has the math, drop it down for me and tell me how old she was. I would actually like to know that. And then here she is. So you would take 225 minus 1984, right? And then deduct that from 111, because she would be, if she was alive, she'd be 111 years old. She just would have had a birthday. So if we look at that, what was she like at my age or whatever age she was? You have to have these strong, dense bones. And when I had originally had my DEX scan done, I wasn't strong. I thought I was strong. I thought I was like a workhorse, but really I wasn't. And I was shocked to get my results. Now, full carnivore, off all veggies, all fruit, never cheat, never treats. I don't do any coffee anymore. I went and had DEX scan done, which by the way stands for dual energy X-ray, which is DEXA scan, and it's a reading of the density of your bone, and it's a measurement that they like to do of the density between your hips, your spine, and your knees and your neck. Those were the 4 areas that they focused on me, and they were like, wow, your scan is completely different than who you were when you were 2 years younger. I was beyond excited with these results. So here I am to share them with you and help you understand that in carnivore, there might be a supplement that you need depending on if you're doing fish or dairy or just beef, water, and salt. And are we getting what we need from the meat? So as a nutritionist, what I want to coach to you is that I believe personally that you need a couple supplements. How much do you need? Depends on where your measurements are at. So for me, it's very random. It used to be consistent every single night, no matter what. I took X amount of vitamin D IU, and then I had my blood work done. I was really good. But when I think of myself, my energy level's dropping. I kind of feel a little sorrow. Maybe the sun's not shining bright today, but it really is. That's a mental thing, and that's a vitamin D thing. So I will kick up my K2D3. But D and K are needed in your bone density. So do you need a D supplement if you have signs of 25% chance of osteoporosis? Yes, you do. It's that simple. Again, connecting the dots. But vitamin D and the carrier is your K2. So you want to work with these together. It is the calcium intake. So how much calcium do you need a day? And again, this is an individual thing. I'm not saying this is for everyone. But the bone support and the muscle and the absorption that's going on through the liver is critical in how the role plays out in your bone density or your bone health, which I believe is extremely important. So the D is going to be the absorption of your calcium that goes through into your system, and lack of that creates brittle bones. So now let's say you've been a vegan, you've been eating vegetables, you just came to carnivore, and they're like, wow, I had a DEX scan and this is what it said. Coach, what should I do? So my recommendation, and again, I'm not a doctor, talk to your doctor if you really feel like you need to. What do you need? You need some sunshine, you need fatty fish. This is going to get your omega-3s like salmon. You need supplements, maybe a K2D3 and maybe a calcium supplement to go with that. And then the biggest thing is that fortified, nutrient-dense food. And that is going to be your beef. That's just where it's at. You're not going to get the same from your pork. Elk is super good. Moose is super good. But most of us are not going to the grocery store and buying moose and elk. So this is where it comes together. So if you say to me, well, how much do I need a day? I'm going to say I need to see your blood work. Literally, that's what it's going to come down to, because I can't say it's the same for every single person, because maybe you are getting enough D and maybe you don't have a deficiency from an autoimmune disease. Maybe there's a wide vast of things going on there that we would need to look at. But primarily women experience low calcium and low D. So where does that leave me in a day? You're going to want about 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams a day of um, calcium. So if you are getting calcium through maybe an occasional cheese on a hamburger, or maybe you're putting heavy whipping cream in your coffee or in your bone broth, or you're eating butter, like wherever the vitamin D, K, and A, and calcium and E are coming from, you kind of want to hone in on that just a little bit, and be really focused on what your body's getting. And of course, if you're not getting it, you're going to have symptoms. And I love that our body talks to us. I don't believe we run to the doctor and we get a medication, but instead we listen to it, and then from there we start to heal it so that we are up to par and we're feeling fantastic. Okay, so when they look at your hips, your spine, and your neck, they're either going to say, hey, you're really deficient here and you're at very high risk of falling and you're brittle and you're going to break bones, or they're going to be like, wow, you look really good. And literally, by the grace of God, my bones came out amazing. You can have my skin. I don't really care. If I can outdo you in the butt, not that we're competing against each other, but like literally, I have people all the time, they're like, but what about the skin? What about the skin? Who cares? I mean, literally, who cares about your skin? Let's focus on your bone density, your brain, your heart, your liver. These things are critical to you being alive, because you might not have skin, or you might not have skin, but you could be rotting from the inside out. So we want to not be rotting, and the skin damage is what it is. It does. If you want to go get it fixed, get it repaired, get Botox, whatever it is, that's your call. But to me, it's superficial. It just doesn't matter. What does matter is what's going on in that liver, my kidneys, my bladder, my gut, my lungs, my heart, my brain, and of course, my bone density, my mitochondria, my ATP. All of these things add up together through your liver. Okay, so if you're meat-based, right, you're going to have a nice high amount of protein. How high? Maybe 120 grams a day, depending on how much meat you're consuming and what type of meat you're consuming. But let's just say you're between 110 and 120. This is sufficient for, 45, 55, 65, 75, 85-year-old women. It is absolutely fantastic, and your protein can spill over. A percentage of it goes to your urine, and then it's going to show up in your urine, and they're going to be concerned because of what's going on in your kidneys. But it also can store into fat cells in your body for later needed energy source. So everybody goes, oh, okay, so protein's not dangerous. Well, it's not dangerous the way the doctors tell you that, oh my gosh, you have kidney disease because you're taking in too much protein. But again, this goes back to being human specific. So each individual woman has to have her needs met. I'm going to tell you myself, I say very moderate to almost low protein. And I love getting the fat in for the day, because I'm a very energetic person. And if I have higher protein, lower fat, I get off tilt. My baseline is no longer giving me the energy I need in order to get through my day, which is a lot. So I stay meat-based, and I stay very high in my protein, my minerals, my B, my iron, my zinc, my A, my B12, and my E. Then I supplement with magnesium, D, and K, because these are also essential and being super healthy as a carnivore woman. This is the foundation for me to have weight-bearing exercises, strength training, walking, developing my hips. My gosh, my hips were so bad. My feet were so bad. My knees were so bad. Getting up off the floor was, can somebody help me get up? It was really bad. And now I'm like up and down, and I'm doing, all these exercises. And I even said earlier today, I think it was, that it feels so good to be back in my own body. I'm no longer a prisoner. Instead, my body is free to live. I have my life back. So the foundation of building bone density you do want to walk. So this is the cardio, the interval training, which we do all of the workouts interval. And then from there, you could throw a weighted vest on for some extra resistance. Just don't go bouncing yourself around and destroying your bladder and your ovaries and all these your uterus and all these other things that are aging out. We don't need them falling out. Let's just put it that way. And then from there, lifting heavy weights. Well, how heavy, coach? Well, if you have to start with a can of food, that's where you start, and you go up from there. So a water bottle's 1 pound. Maybe in a month from now, you'll be up to 3 pounds or 5 pounds. Why does there have to be a cap? You could keep going for wherever you want. I personally just moved into 25 pounds. Now, obviously, back in my bodybuilding days, that would have been peanuts, right? But now I'm so thankful for this accomplishment that, wow, I'm lifting weights, I'm building bone density, I'm fully carnivore, I have massive amounts of energy, my brain is sharp as a tack, and I feel fantastic. Why would I complain? There would be no reason to. So this gives us posture. This gives us spine density, hip density, your knees, your bones, the support system. And then on top of that, it helps you lose weight. And when you get the pressure off of these joints and your bone, you actually start to heal at a different level. Autophagy, that's a whole nother subject. But autophagy helps also with your bone density, cleaning out that liver, getting rid of the dead cells, the zombie cells. This is going to eliminate inflammation and eliminate cancer. So do we have to do this? I hear it all day long. Carnivores don't have to work out. Yeah, you do. Why? Because you want a healthy body. So now you lost weight and your body's not healthy. That doesn't make any sense to me, to be honest with you. I feel like if you lost weight and you're healthy, that's the win. It really is. At the end of the day, that's the win. And it's not even about the weight on the scale. It's what's going on inside the skin. We don't have a little TV that pops in there and says, oh, this is what's going on. We have scans, we have ultrasounds, we have other ways to do 3-dimensional and be able to see what's going on. But the way you feel, that is ultimately your win. Okay, so coach, yes, what damages my bone density? Everything you've ever done. Yep, chemicals, alcohol, smoking, drugs, caffeine. These all destroy your bone density. So where do we go from here? Well, you have a baseline, and you should be at your baseline, but you've kind of tilted that scale, and now you're on the downside of your teeter-totter, and you have increased your risk up, I don't even know, probably 50 to 60% of becoming fracture risk, which means that at any time in a car accident, a fall, anything dropping on you, falling off a ladder, like whatever it is, you're going to be at a higher risk for those fractures versus somebody who's working carnivore, taking their supplements and exercising. So exercising is super critical, you guys. I get told all the time, what's great about you, coach, is you're the one-stop shop. And I do believe that because, again, going back to the beginning of this, we are focused on our mind, body, and spirit. It's not just focused on that scale. That doesn't mean anything to me. I have women all day long that go, oh, the scale went up 1.6. Who cares? How do you feel? Oh, I feel great. How's your mind? Great. How's your spirit today? Excellent. Are you happy? Yes. Who cares? Literally throw it out and don't throw away your scale, because I need you to give me a smart scale reading, right? So now if you're underweight, this is a biggie, and you've been a vegan, do you think you have great bone density or horrible? Well, I'll answer the question for you. You have horrible bone density as a vegan, thin, and not getting sunlight because you're afraid of the rays, not walking barefoot because you're afraid of diseases, having a low immune system, your mitochondria is in the toilet, your ATP is not even working. You are at high risk for having fractures and frail bones. If you're overweight, this is critical right here, guys. If you are overweight, you have been obese, you have obesity, you have fatty liver disease, fibrosis of the liver, you have large breasts, you have just blown up and you don't even know why, you have an impaired bone density. So where is the optimal living? Where is the optimal carnivore? The optimal carnivore is getting the right amount of calories for your own personal expenditure. And in this course, in this program, if you follow the workouts, the meal planning goes right alongside it. The supplements go right along beside it, because we're all women. We might have to tweak a little bit here or there, but literally I wrote the program so that they go hand in hand. So I'm never asking your body to do more than I've given it. So the fuel level matches the expenditure. It's like a bank account. And then from there, we start to get these amazing results. I mean, it's just phenomenal, to be honest with you. And the only ones that kind of get sideways are the ones who are listening to too many people. They're down the rabbit holes and they're trying to kind of correlate their own type of program off the program. Doesn't work. I can tell you every time they come back and they're like, well, I've been doing this, I've been doing that, and I'm not even going to go into specifics, but it fails every single time. So if you're thinking about doing this course, the number one thing that you want to understand is why. So the why is you, and then from there, I'll educate you how carnivore works with bone density. So let's move forward just a little bit more. We were talking about like optimal health for a carnivore. So if I was to go back, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, whatever it is, they didn't have poor bone density. The main reason why is they were always active. And then, of course, with being active, they were getting in the fat from the beef and they ate the animal. So whether it was elk, it was rabbit, whatever it was. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to split hairs over like, well, maybe they didn't have elk or maybe they had cow. I don't know. I wasn't there. But what I do know is what I have today. And my access to a lot of those things in a private butcher is there. There are people who bring in elk and they're selling whatever. There are supplements that you can get that give you your liver and your organs. These are all critical for bone density. So do I recommend supplements in this particular case? If you are on the spectrum of having low bone density, yes. If your bone density is great, you want to build for the future, yes. And if you don't, that's your choice. It's your call. It's your body. You're the only one who can be in charge of what goes inside of it. So now let's talk briefly on the balance of dairy. So on my particular program, I'm like, take dairy out, especially if you're an addict, because it has some chemicals in it that aren't truly chemicals, but they are designed for the calf to go to its mom and want more and more so it could grow. And this hormone inside there, or I guess it's a hormone versus a chemical, and it draws them back. And we are the only animal on the planet still chasing dairy at 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. We're not babies. We're not growing that way anymore. We don't need it for our brain development or our bone development. But if you wanted to take a calcium supplement, I would obviously be for that. Or if you wanted to go on colostrum for a while, it works fantastic for this as well. And moving forward past like the cheese, the yogurts, why not stick to fatty fish? Why not stick to the fat off the beef? And then step back away from it and see how your D levels are and see how your K2 levels are. Do the test, or maybe even more importantly, get up and do the exercise and give yourself 3 to 6 months to develop that by yourself, which is like literally I did the supplements, I did the exercises. I don't miss. I take off all weekends. And I've missed probably 14 days, maybe 21 days. I'll even give you a month. I've taken 28 days. I know I haven't, but let's just say I have. From the day I started and I got consistent and I said, this is my time. This is my priority, because if I don't do this, then in the future, I'm not going to be here to do anything. And I don't want that. I have seen heart attacks come and go in the last 4 years of people who died. I have seen people die of liver cirrhosis that 4 years ago, I asked them, do you want to work on your liver? Can I help you? Do you want the secret, to getting your life back? No, I'm good. The doctor says I'm good. The doctor says I'm good. If you have symptoms of having liver disease at all, at any level, you had better address it, because your time will be running out. Once we turn that upside down, your hourglass, and it's just flowing through there, you don't get to turn it back, right? So now we have to manage what we have coming through. And that doesn't need to be sad. It needs to be embraced to know that no matter what, your time here is limited. None of us are going to be here forever. But what we do with it is your choice. And on that note, you guys take care, have a great day, and I'll see you back soon. God bless.